Hi everyone, welcome to today's Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework bi-weekly sync. Today is the 8th of February and I am your host, Garry Trinder. And today we have, move the slides on correctly, we've got our usual latest update on the SharePoint Framework, and then we have a roundup of all the updates from the community projects. And then we will have picture time with Together Mode. And then we've got 3 demos for you today. We're going to be talking about the SharePoint admin model. We're going to be talking about custom SharePoint section templates, and we're going to be looking into Azure OpenAI API stream mode in SPFx web parts. So if this is your first time coming onto this community call, the community has tons of resources available for you. So whether you're looking for videos that have been previous recordings of this community call, the individual sessions, you'll get those on the YouTube channel. So if you're not a subscriber, go along, subscribe, like some videos, leave some comments. All good. If you're looking for discussions, LinkedIn is the place for you to go. We've got our Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community group as well. Pop along, go and join in there, have some conversations. And if you're looking for open source projects, we've got lots of those projects as well. Lots of places for you to get involved, contribute. And if you do want to contribute things that you've actually worked on, you've got the sample galleries as well, where you can see all the samples that other people have contributed to the community, things that they've been working on. We'd love you to contribute some more in there as well. And after all that, so many resources, the only URL that you need to remember is aka.ms/community/home, which will give you all the links and access to all these different areas. So if you don't have that bookmarked, and if you do use bookmarks, probably bookmark that one. So the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community calls, we have more than just this call. We have the weekly call on Tuesdays with Microsoft speakers. We also have a Power Platform, Office add-ins, and bi-weekly community calls, this call and another general call as well. Lots of invites on the screen there. Again, there's only one link that you need, aka.ms/community/calls, where you'll be able to get the recurrent invites so that you can add them into your calendar so you don't forget when they're happening. On the subject of the community call, so the next Tuesday call on the 13th of February, we have 3 demos. So we're going to be continuing the Extending Copilot for Microsoft 365 series. We've got Bob German talking about the Northwind inventory sample. We have Mark Windle coming to talk to us about SharePoint Embedded, and another Copilot session from Paolo Piorsi, who's going to be covering Copilot Studio. And if you would like to come and present, maybe you've been working on something, you want to tell people about it, then you can request to present on these community calls. Go to aka.ms/community/request/demo, where you'll find the form, and we will get you scheduled in.
All right, folks. So for those of you who are interested in contributing to the community, we know how scary it can be, right? If you've never used GitHub and we're asking you to do a pull request, you might be wondering, well, am I going to take down the entire repo? Don't worry. We know it is scary, and that's why we've created these sessions called Sharing is Caring, where you can join us. They're small sessions. They're never recorded. They're a safe space, and we'll cover topics like how to create your first GitHub pull request, or how to submit a Power Platform sample, or anything, including presenting at events like these or conferences. Again, you can join our Sharing is Caring sessions by going to aka.ms/sharing is caring. And we have office hours coming soon where you'll be able to ask us questions at given times of the day. And once you have done your first contribution, we have our recognition program, which is the next slide. There you go. And our recognition program is a badge, a virtual badge that is issued to you by Credly. And Credly, those are the same people that you'll see their certifications on LinkedIn and things like that. This is completely free for you. We cover the costs, but it's a badge that recognizes your awesome work. And all you need to do is to tell us who you are by going to aka.ms/community/recognition, where you'll associate your GitHub account and your email address. And when we see contributions that are monitored by the badges, we will actually issue you a badge. It's that simple. And then you can show it to your friends, put it on your resume, put it on your blog. It's awesome. So we look forward to seeing what you have to do within the community, and we love everything you do. Back to you, Garry.
Thank you, Hugo. Thank you very much for that. Oh, forgot the spinny badge. There we go. Over to Vesa for the latest on the SharePoint framework.
Cool. Quick updates in here from the engineering side. First of all, the growth is back in line. It's pretty amazing to see the growth. It just keeps on going, skyrocketing above the expectations. We have done 5 times the daily usage in 3 years, which is mind-boggling for SPFx across all of the different applications. So really, really cool to see this. Thank you, everybody who's building stuff on it. It is a safe bet to build on. I'll come back on that one in a second. We're building more stuff in the future. Now, a few things related on SPFx from a technology perspective and a capability perspective. So the Viva Connection desktop experience actually went live. A new experience went live last week. I'll put that link in the chat. So this is a new options for building frontline workers and Viva Connection experiences, and you can build those custom cards over there. And then if you go to the following slide, a new option there as well, which is the bot-powered ACEs. So this is mainly for Microsoft Teams ISVs who have already invested on Microsoft Teams bots. And then they're basically saying, well, I don't want to build SPFx. I want to just expose the bot adaptive card in Viva Connection. And now we're saying, yeah, you can absolutely do that. That's kind of the idea here. But of course, the most capabilities still are within the SharePoint framework, and that's going to happen. That's going to be the case in the future as well. If you go to the following slide, the kind of a teaser just calling out here, this is what we showed in December, which is the areas where we will be focused on the 2024. All of this is subject to change. The really big focus area internally, obviously, is Copilot for Microsoft, and we are now actively looking into, well, betting quite a lot of our resources on making sure that SPFx is the easiest way to do Copilot extensibility, so you can extend the chats and all of that stuff with SPFx, or the hosted, all of those goodies what we have with SPFx also available there. More news obviously on that one later on, so this is super early, just a teaser on where we're betting on. Cool. Let's go to the following slides and start going through the projects.
Thank you, Vesa. As introduced, let's go through the open source projects. First up, PMP.js. Bo, over to you.
Or Julie.
Oh, Julie. Apologies,
Yeah.
Julie.
No, it's all right. I'm here. I'm here for it. We don't have much to talk about today. We do have a version 3.23 to be released February 12th. We added, or a community member added a Git schedule to for the calendar endpoint to Graph. So that small update is in, and we had made some changes trying to support batching and caching working together, and have realized that caused more problems than it fixed, even though we thought it was all working. So we've reverted all those changes, and we're taking that whole trying to do bashing and caching together into the version 4 release instead. So that's reverted back. So anybody that was having problems with those things, check out the release notes on that. Version 4 is very, very well underway. We had hoped we were going to be ready to release it in the next few weeks, but it's going to probably be another month for us to tighten everything up and get everything working exactly the way we want to. But certainly that version 4 nightly build is out there, and you can start checking things out and seeing where we're at. So if you want to, please keep an eye on our LinkedIn Microsoft 365 platform community, where we post updates regularly. And that is all I have. So thank you. Back to you, Garry.
Thank you very much, Julie. Okay, moving on. CLI for Microsoft 365 v7.4. So this is stable release of the beta updates that we've been talking about in the past. So we have updates for Azure AD. So now everything's been renamed to Microsoft Entra ID as well. So we've updated the command aliases. We have a new command there for adding roles with an admin unit scope to a user. We've got external connections as well. So if you're doing Microsoft Search, we've got a command to add a URL to an item resolver. We've got some new Power Apps commands as well to manage these apps as an admin, and also added proxy support as well to the CLI. So if you're wanting to use CLI behind, corporate proxy, you can now do that. So that's been a long-awaited ask. That's now in the latest stable version. And to get that, you can get that from npm by using the @latest tag. And you can also use our Docker container as well, where you can run CLI without actually having to install it by using the latest tag there as well. As always, we have lots of other minor updates, bug fixes, documentation updates. So go check out the release notes to find all the details of those. And if you have anything CLI related that you want to discuss, then pop along to our Discord server and ask the questions, and we'll be happy to answer them. Moving on, so we have the dev proxy. So dev proxy is the tool for you to simulate API errors, behaviors, and mocking API responses. So we are getting ready for the 0.15 release. So we have a new beta release where we've added new features. One, overriding URLs at command line. So previously you had to have this in a config file. Now you can just define the URLs that you want to watch as when you run the proxy. Support for M1 Max as well. And lots of other updates as well, lots of bug fixes, smaller improvements, like, again, we've simplified the macOS install as well. And we also now have a VS Code extension as well. So if you go along to Marketplace and look for Dev Proxy Toolkit, so we've started to add functionality in here to make it easier for you to create and update your configuration files as well. So it's early preview. Pop along, take a look. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you could raise that in the GitHub issues, we will get that all in for the next version. Okay, moving on to the reusable SPFx controls. Alex.
Thank you, Garry. Yep, I am. So yeah, we released new versions for both React controls and React property controls. For React controls, there were some enhancements for dynamic form and people picker, also various fixes around dynamic form as well. For the property controls, we kind of enhanced or fixed the support for disabled property in the site picker. So the property was there, but in UI you actually didn't see like if the control is disabled or not. And there is a text selection fix for code editor. As usual, special thanks to all our contributors who are making these releases useful for you. And that's all I have. Thank you. Back to you, Garry.
Thank you very much, Alex. On to Vesa, are you covering this one? Or is Adam on the call?
Adam on the call. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Not on the call. Okay, latest release is 2.5. And the team is actually working on the version 3. Adam is really leading this work, and there's a lot of great opportunities. The name is a bit misleading. It's Viva Connection Toolkit, but it actually works with any SPF solution. And also nowadays it works with the partnership with Teams Toolkit. So you can actually use the Viva Connection Toolkit together with Teams Toolkit. If you build your SPFx solution, you can choose which one you will actually use for operation and all of that, and they're not breaking each other. Great improvement. If you're doing anything with SPFx, it will simplify things and will make management of your application easier. For example, accessing app catalogs directly from here, deployments, all of that directly within the Visual Studio Code. AKMS, Viva VS Code for more details.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Moving on, modern search. Casper.
Thank you. Yes, we released 4.10.2 yesterday, I think it was. It's primarily related to bug fixes. We had one with the refiner where we couldn't really see which refiner was selected. That was a bit issue. And then we have a new contribution from Finland, actually from Lauri Böhm, I think the name is pronounced, and also contributions from the usual crew. And we also have a couple of new layouts to the new repository. where we can demo and get inspiration for our custom layouts, if that's what you're looking for. And if you have additional layouts that you would like to contribute, please reach out. We really welcome new pull requests for that one. But then again, new release is out. It's primarily a bug fix, but it's really worth installing that one and take it for a spin. Back to you, Garry.
Perfect. Thanks, Casper. And PMP SPFx ACEs. Hugo?
Thank you. So we have repositories where we show you samples of adaptive card extensions. And this is our latest update by Matteo Serpi, the world clock sample. It's currently in a pull request. We'll process it shortly. But again, we welcome all your samples, web parts, extensions, adaptive card extensions. You can go to ak.ms SPFx ACEs. And thank you, everyone, for all your hard work.
So that's the roundup of the open source projects. Now it's time for picture time.
Let's see how well this works today. I just tried to flip the mode and let me share my screen. That typically helps. It's working. It's working. Oh my God, it's working. Let's wait for a while to get the 50 people. Wait. You can wave already, but we're not recording. Wait a while. This is good. And it's not pixelated. This is amazingly clear. This is really good. So we have 50 seats in the room. Let's wait a few more people to come in before we start recording. I'm ready to record already. I will not enable my camera. Yes, AC. Yes, I know you want to get to a demo. I can see that on the back row. And Stephanie is doing the wave. There we go. Wave is good. I guess we're hitting the limits. So let me put the recording on and we'll capture a GIF animation out of this. It's so clear. This is really good. I can see Derek on the front and on the middle. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, there we go. He's waving. And Steve on the front row almost. Yeah, Hugo there. Hugo, are you sleeping? Where's your eyes? Anyway, there we go. Excellent. Thanks, everybody. We'll grab a GIF animation out of that. Really, really cool. And Chris is there as well. Excellent. And Guido. Yeah. I can see a lot of familiar faces here. Cool. Let's get back on the slides and to the real stars of today.
And yes, so let's get on with the demos. First up, we have Andrew Connell talking about SharePoint Add-in model. Andrew, you want to take it away?
I can do that. Let me share my slides. Okay, you see my slides?
Got them.
Was that a yes? I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay. You're a bottom. I'm not sure if that's good or not. Cool. So thank you very much for the opportunity to present this today. I'm going to be kind of quick here. This is not a really long pitch here, but I've got a couple links I'm going to share at the very end. I'll post those in the chat as well. My focus that I want to cover today is around SharePoint, the SharePoint add-in retirement notice. Basically answer some questions that I've been getting from a lot of my customers around the what, the why, the when, and then some guidance around the most popular questions that I've been seeing from customers. So let's start with, well, what's happening? Well, what Microsoft has done is they've announced in 2023, last year, they announced 3 major services that are going to reach end of life. That's SharePoint 2013 workflows, Azure Access Control Services, and the SharePoint add-in model that includes both provider-hosted and SharePoint-hosted add-ins. Exactly. I love the flowers being thrown into the pit. I'm watching the chat, but I'm not going to try and answer those. I'll do those at the end when I'm done with this, so I can make sure clear room for some of the real people who are going to do some presentations coming after me. So why are they doing this? And why am I mentioning all 3 of them and not just the SharePoint add-in retirement, not SharePoint retirement? I'm not announcing anything new. So this is partly done because of a couple different reasons, but partly because Azure ACS was replaced by Azure Active Directory that we now know as Microsoft Entra ID. So if you think back, add-ins were announced with SharePoint 2013, and then 2 years later, Microsoft announced that the future of Azure ACS was going to be Azure Active Directory. I know it was like 9 years ago almost, but that's what the announcement was. And Azure ACS was going to be retired. Technically, Azure ACS was retired in 2018, but it didn't really affect us in the SharePoint space because we still had some behind the scenes stuff that was still going. But this retirement is kind of coming a little bit hot and heavier now. It's going to have more of an impact on us. And more of an issue with this now is that we have these three services that are all somewhat reliant and dependent upon each other. SharePoint add-ins were reliant upon Azure ACS to handle its app permissioning model. But the problem that we had, and so the problem we have there is that Azure ACS is going away. Well, if Azure ACS is going away, well, the other challenge we have is that SharePoint workflows rely on the add-in model for deployment, which they also rely on Azure ACS for permissioning as well. They don't leverage Azure Active Directory. So that's why you kind of saw all these services get announced last year as all being retired and reaching their end of life. Microsoft announced the 2013 workflow retirement in April of last year, and then they announced the add-in and ACS retirement from SharePoint Online in November of last year. So another reason why they are getting rid of SharePoint add-ins is, quite frankly, they weren't widely adopted. We had this concept of an app web. Didn't give us the kind of customization opportunities that a lot of developers and customers asked for. And when Microsoft took a step back and they looked at, well, what are the most popular things that people are doing as far as developers go in SharePoint Online? Well, when they looked at that, they saw that, hey, it's the content editor web part and the script editor web part, because people were using things like jQuery and other client-side solutions to modify existing SharePoint sites, since add-ins didn't let you do it all that much. So what Microsoft did is we have some, one of the reasons they're also retiring these three different services is because we have modern replacements for all of them. If you think back, add-ins, they were only available to us in classic pages. We have a modern experience now, and the way that you customize the modern experience is using is primarily using SharePoint Framework. When it comes to SharePoint 2013 workflows, the modern replacement for that is Power Automate. The modern replacement for Azure Access Control Services is Azure Active Directory. Microsoft Entra ID. It's going to take a while for that to stick. And again, for add-ins, the new replacement is the SharePoint Framework. So when is all of this happening? Well, here's my little Uber slide that kind of walks through all of this. I personally found that the announcements from Microsoft were hard to follow in the timeline. So I created my own timeline, which is what you see here. Also, a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about, I'm going to give you links at the very end that takes you to like some articles that I've written that kind of wrap up all the posts. So when I said that ACS was retired, when I say that Microsoft made the announcement that the future of ACS is Azure AD, I'm going to give you links to all of that stuff at the end. So we'll skip the first one. That's kind of self-explanatory. We already know that stuff. That's the 2013 year of SharePoint retirement services, where workflow was announced in April of 2023, and then ACS and add-ins were announced later in November. So what does this mean coming forward to us? What's the timeline look like for this? Well, add-ins are on the far right here. And what's going to happen is in March of this year, so next month, Microsoft is going to stop allowing you to deploy a new add-in to the SharePoint store. Okay, so you're not going to be able to deploy them to the SharePoint store. It's got nothing to do with your tenant. You cannot deploy new add-ins to the SharePoint store. You will be able to upgrade the existing ones. When it comes to when we move into July, they're going to flat out stop letting anybody install a SharePoint add-in based solution that has been deployed to the store. You're not going to be able to install those in your tenants anymore. Okay, that's what's going to happen in July of this year. Now, later in this year, in November, this is when the first really big milestone hits. And that is if you don't already have a Microsoft 365 tenant. If you go to create a brand new Microsoft 365 tenant with SharePoint Online, and after November of this year, they haven't said it a specific day or time or whatever, but let's just call it, December the 1st. If I go to create a brand new tenant, I will not have the infrastructure that supports and implements SharePoint add-ins and Azure ACS. Those will not exist, or those will not be turned on in my tenant, in my SharePoint Online tenant. The only way that that add-ins will continue to work or will work starting in December of this year is if you already had a Microsoft 365 tenant already created prior to November. Then the next big milestone is in April of 2026, so about a year and a half later. In April of 2026, that's when the hammer comes down on all three of these services. Workflows stop working, Azure ACS stops working, and SharePoint Add-in stop working. So before you freak out and say, well, oh my God, what am I going to do when this happens? Let me start talking through some of this stuff. So what does your migration story look like for this? Well, first thing to keep in mind here is that nothing is going to be deleted. So if you've got an add-in and you've got a bunch of stuff where you're using this and everything's cool here, everything's working today, don't worry, nothing's going to get deleted. Even after the retirement date or the end of life, your add-ins will still be there. They won't work, they won't load, but they're just going to stop loading, right? The data will still be there. The other thing that you need to keep in mind here is that nothing is automatic, meaning that you're not going to get any kind of an automatic upgrade. You are going to have to do some work if you want to continue your story when it comes to your add-in based solutions. If you've built a SharePoint hosted add-in, the natural migration story for that is to create a brand new SharePoint Framework project and then re-implement your solution as a SharePoint Framework solution. There is no upgrade or there's no quick migration of your add-in project to your SharePoint Framework project. I guess there is. You get two monitors out. One of them's got the add-in on it. One of them's got the SharePoint Framework project on it, and you're just copying stuff over and hoping it all works and then making code changes until it does work. If you have a provider hosted add-in, well, if there's an app part, which is basically a web part, inside of that provider hosted add-in, you'll use the SharePoint Framework to go migrate those changes over. Otherwise, well, I'm sorry, I'm going to play the consultant card and just say it depends, because it really depends on what you're doing there. Now, there is some downside to this, or there is some sad stuff that's going to happen, and that is we are losing some functionality with this retirement. Remote event receivers is a big one that comes up. Now, if it's an asynchronous event receiver, you're okay, because the natural progression for that is using webhooks. You have webhooks in SharePoint, you have webhooks in Graph, and you can subscribe to webhooks and respond to when different events happen. However, we have a concept in remote event receivers called synchronous events, but unfortunately, there's no story for that going forward. Those are gone. Now, if you don't like that, there's a great email address you can use, brickwall@Microsoft. I'm just kidding. You have to give feedback to Microsoft and tell them that this is a major problem for you, and maybe they'll do something, but I wouldn't hold your breath. I would consider it you're not going to have any kind of a story as far as synchronous events go. So you need to look at the scenario of where you rely on synchronous events to be able to cancel items getting added to a list, maybe reevaluate it, maybe decide maybe SharePoint's not the best story for that. But I just want to make sure that that you're aware of that. The other thing you're going to lose with this is what I call SharePoint add-in lifecycle events. In the add-in model, we have 3 different. Oh man, someone put the email address in there in the chat. That's not a real email address, guys. So don't get mad if you say Andrew gave me a bad email address. It actually might not bounce, so who knows? There might be someone whose alias is Brickwall, but I doubt that would be unfortunate. In SharePoint add-ins, we have some lifecycle methods that happen when an app is installed, when it's upgraded, when it's about to be uninstalled. And it allows us to do some good first run experience stuff. So for example, if my web part required a list to be present, I could use that event to fire up or to fire off a message to a webhook of mine or an endpoint that then provision the list for me. That doesn't exist. We don't have that today. Big feature ask has been one of my big asks for the last 7 years, but we don't have that today, and Microsoft hasn't said anything about any plans related to that. So what my guidance to you would be is you need to implement a first run experience. So for example, you drop your web part on the page. The first thing it does is it checks to see, does that list I need, is it there? And if not, you provide some sort of a good experience for your user to either go call an administrator who's got permissions to create the list, to come back, use the web part, click a button, and then you provision it using the Graph or SharePoint REST API. Or the user who may have permissions to do that could do that right there and then themselves. So you need to implement your own first run experience. Now, let me address some of the frequently asked questions that I've received from a lot of customers who are doing this. and some answers that I've tracked down. So they said, well, what about all my customizations I made to the ribbon bar or to what's called the edit control block or ECB menu or context menu customizations? For that, you're going to use the SharePoint Framework extension called a command set extension. So that's, or a list view command set. So that's the natural progression you'd want to migrate those solutions to. It uses the same infrastructure under the covers. What about solutions that use app-only permissions? Today it's not a good story because you can't do that. However, Microsoft has said in the comments of the announcement post that they are working on something to be able to address that. Today we can only do that with ACS, with Azure ACS. However, what they're talking about doing is it looks like we're going to have the same kind of capability that we have in Graph to get resource-specific consent, RSC, inside of our SharePoint sites. And the idea here is that I don't want to give an app like admin permissions to everything in my entire tenant. Instead, I want to delegate that decision down to the site owner and let them just grant either that permission to the site or to specific lists in that site. So doesn't exist today, looks like it's coming. We got a couple years until we can see that actually land for us, but that's where the question comes in. Next thing is, what about remote event receivers? What about library and list events, synchronous and asynchronous app lifecycle events? I think I already covered those in the last slide, so I'm not going to do that here. What about apps or add-ins that are deployed to the SharePoint store? So the guidance here is that you're going to want to recreate these add-ins and communicate to your customers that they need to go through and use and create the new add-in. It looks like you might be able to upgrade the existing one in the store, but that's not entirely clear. It does look like some of the story is kind of evolving like over between now and the retirement. So I know Microsoft is still working on some stuff.
Yeah. Are we back over here?
No, we're over here. You might want to mute yourself. The other thing that we have here that I want to cover. Oh, now we're over here. So how do you migrate your deployed and add-ins that are currently in use to new SharePoint Framework solutions? So this is a great question. What if I've already got an add-in? It's already in use on a site. I've got some public properties that are already set on it. Am I going to lose it? And the answer is no, you're not going to lose it. Remember, I said earlier, nothing gets deleted. So what's going to happen is that your add-in simply won't load after the next, after the end of life, but the data will still be there. And so if you remember on a SharePoint classic page, there's the webpart framework. We have an object called the webpart manager. And you can use the webpart manager to get a reference to all web parts on the page, including all the public properties for that web part on the page. You could use that to pull the data out of that web part and then use the upcoming, or what's currently now in preview, Microsoft Graph Pages API to add your SharePoint Framework web parts to the page and then migrate that data that you extracted into the new piece. In other words, you're on your own. You got to do this yourself. I would talk to the migration tools. They may end up giving something to help us with this, but technically that's the way that this stuff is all gonna happen. Okay, so just want to make sure that everybody is aware of that, as that's a pretty important piece to it. Now I want to go ahead and post these links. Oops, went too fast on that one. I'm going to post these links to the chat here. I know there's a lot of questions that I haven't covered. I know there's a lot more stuff to go into, but I want to make sure I leave time for the other presenters. I've got an article that kind of summarizes a lot of this, including that graphic that I showed earlier, which was the big timeline piece. That's available both as an article and a video. I also, earlier this week on my newsletter and on my site, I published a list of frequently asked questions of a lot of the stuff that I went through today, but there'll be some more stuff as well. And if you've got any other questions about this, I'm going to go through the chat for the next 15 minutes or so, or 20 minutes, and I'll do my best to answer as many questions that I saw come up. But if not, find me on any of the social media platforms, Threads, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm on just about all of them. So you use that link that you see there, you'll easily find me, drop a question. I'd love to chat with you about this and find out what other questions you have around the add-in model retirement. And I'll keep updating that frequently asked questions post as more and more stuff comes up. So thanks a lot. And I will turn it back over to, I don't know, presenter 2. I forgot which one that was.
Cheers, AC. Fantastic info. It's going to be super important going forward. So thank you very much for sharing all of that. Yes, so let's move on to our second presenters. We have Olga and Mikhail, who are going to talk through introduction to the custom SharePoint section templates solution. Olga, Mikhail, if you want to share your deck.
Sure, just give me a while so I can find the right screen. Yes, that's the one. I hope you can hear me well. Hello,
yes,
everyone.
I can see your screen. I can hear you. Please take it away.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. My name is Olga Staszek-Kornet. Today, I will talk about a new SharePoint extension enhancing the editor's experience with custom section templates. Since I'm not a frequent visitor here, and this is the first time I present something, let's start with the quick intro round. The solution would have never come to life without Viva Connections, a great SharePoint developer and privately my husband. He also owns a blog where this and other solutions we develop are described and promoted. He is also at the call while I am here to present the solution. I am a technical consultant in the area of M365 and Power Platform, working currently in the digital collaboration team in a maritime shipping company. So what is the idea behind the scenes? The inspiration for developing the solution came directly from the intranet project I have coordinated lately. And as we all know, SharePoint is a powerful platform, but there are some universal needs everyone working with content management can easily identify with. For example, content editors, they always seek nice and easy ways to publish their data, but also often face issues while composing their own layouts, and they tend to complain about being forced to place the same set of information over and over again on many pages. From the global perspective, an important aspect here is to have this coherent look and feel across all the sites and to think to all the SharePoint sites as of a bigger whole. And on top of that, we often need to stick to the corporate design with applied graphics or text formats. And there are always some other policies that we need to be compliant with. So all these cases together only confirm that defining some standard layouts our editors can easily follow is a huge benefit. Of course, the right answer here is to use the page template, but these templates are sometimes just not flexible enough. In most cases, we are either constrained to a few layouts and we need to adjust them further, or we have to, on the other hand, create multiple variants of the same template to gain more flexibility, which is also not handy as well. And SharePoint natively has this feature for page section templates, as we all know, but there are only 6 of them available, pre-built with the text and image web parts, so they are not helpful here as well. And none of the approaches are as effective as having the customized building blocks of predefined sections we can compose really the way we like. So what we did was to come up with the SharePoint Framework extension that allows editors to save the already deployed sections together with exact configuration and place them easily on any site pages throughout the tenant. With the same solution, SharePoint admins can release a central library of predefined sections, and the solution itself is based on SharePoint lists, which are a simple yet effective storage for the section data. Consequently, our solution contributes to more efficient content publishing with the 4 key features. The main one is simply a duplication of sections with templates kept on a site-specific list that is managed by site owners and editors, or on a global list managed by administrators. Secondly, a simple and effective page creation is accelerating the process and saving time. Next, the structured development of cohesive layouts with our ready-to-go sections as our major building blocks. And last but not least, it's also an easy way for us to copy web parts with their complex configuration between pages. Since we have already got the general idea, let me now show you what the process of creating and applying section templates looks like in practice. First, we need to go to any page located on any site where you have already installed the app. The installation guide is enclosed in the article. I will share the link to it later at the end of my speech, so I won't jump into details now, but in a nutshell, one needs to create an SPFx package, deploy it in the app catalog, and next install the app on any target site. So what we need to do is to go to the edit mode on the selected page, pick the section we would like to create a template from. And then since it's going to be some template, let's make it look like one. So maybe we would like to change some text here for some placeholder like team name, and maybe this lengthy chapter here can be just described as team description. And we can also indicate that some other web parts are to be filled in yet. So I will remove some obsolete data here and there, and maybe also under the call to action button. And now we can proceed to saving the section as the template. I will go to the Save Section button here in the left hand side. And this is something that initializes the site pane. In here, we need to provide the section title. So let's go with something like team data. Then we can provide some description. It's not obligatory, but it's a good practice just to write down something that will describe what's inside. So let's proceed with a 3-column section with theme presentation or whatever. And then if you would like to have some visual presentation, we can also enclose some icon here. I will go for something related to a group of people. So let's go with this one. And what is happening after hitting this exit button here is catching the section JSON code from the page source and saving it on a dedicated list. The solution itself calculates the position of the section, so it's really important for us to define this section template when all the modifications are already saved. The code conveys information about the section layout, its background, web parts within, and particular settings. And here is the button to copy this JSON code to the clipboard. We can use it to manually add items to our global section list located on the root side, or just to check the structure behind. But what we want to do right now is to save the section locally only. So this site will be the place to store the section template. I will then accept my choice, and to be able to apply the same template to the same page, which doesn't make much sense here because we already have this this section here. But if we want to see our newly created template already in the available choices, we just need to refresh our view, and then we can proceed to this upper ribbon where the Add Section button appears, and here we can see that we already have some predefined section templates. The upper row stands for the global repository, while the lower row of templates is our site-based library of the sections. This is the section that we have just defined. I can accept my choice just to show you that the solution automatically refreshes the page again, and if I scroll down to the very bottom, I can already see this section applied here to my page draft. Of course, you can go to the other page and add the created section or any other section there the very same way, but what I would like to show you right now is that we can start from blank, like from the empty page template. And then within some seconds, you can get a nice looking coherent page draft you can build on later. So while I am here on this very blank space, I can start adding sections. So maybe we can start with the header here and then proceed with adding some more sections. And as you can see, the process is quite quick. Maybe we would also like to enclose this newly created section. And as our cherry on top, how about putting here some vertical section as well? And all of these sections, as you can see, they are already here. They are also fully adjustable, so we can change the background, we can change the content, we can also duplicate any section we like, and this is just a good start for us to start building the pages that are coherent, that are following our corporate guidelines, and that are just nice and easy to use. At the end, I would like to show you the both lists from which we pulled out the data. So this is this local section templates list located on our site. As you can see, our latest lately created section is already here, and the columns stand for the data that was provided within the form. And the same goes for the very same list, but located on our root site. And as you can see, 5 of our global sections are here as well. And if we are to add anything new in here, we just need to provide a title. And as you might remember, I have also copied the JSON template to my clipboard, so I can easily paste it here, and then I can just add this global template using this save button. Okay, so now what I'd like to do, just for the end, I will return to my slides. I hope you like this concept presented here. So if you face similar issues I described at the beginning slides, feel invited to visit my GitHub profile and try out how the extension works on your site. To learn even more about the solution, jump to our website. The link is at the bottom. And if you have any questions or ideas, you can also easily find me and Michał on LinkedIn and just drop by for a chat. That's all from my side, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Olga. Fantastic presentation, great solution. Thanks for coming to share that with us. Okay, let's move on to the next presentation. We have Luis Mañez calling Azure OpenAI API in stream mode from an SPFx web part. Luis, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Garry. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Please let me know if you can see it as well.
Yeah, that's come through. Take it away.
Cool, thank you. I wish I could minimize this one, but it's not working, so I'm gonna move here, and hopefully it's not very interesting. Okay, yeah, in this demo, I'm gonna show you how we can call the Azure OpenAI API in a stream mode from an SPFx web part. A very fast about me slide. My name is Luis Mañez. I work as a chief architect at ClearPeople. I'm a Microsoft 365 development MVP and a usual contributor of this amazing community. And you can find me in the different social networks as Luis Mañez, so feel free to say hi. Okay, please note that this OpenAI service is still in preview. So you're gonna need to ask permissions to Microsoft to use it in your Azure subscription. So you're gonna need to fill a fairly long form specifying your subscription ID and other data. And after that, in 2 or 3 days, you should get a response and reply from Microsoft. And if they enable the service, you can create an OpenAI service from the Azure portal as usual, and you can deploy the different models you want to use using the Azure OpenAI Studio. Okay, let's see the web part in action. So I'm jumping into my browser. And well, my web part is right now running locally. So this is the usual and typical UI from a chat component. So let's add something to the model. Let's say something like, what is Microsoft and the main benefits? And you can see the reply and how the data is getting back in chunks, and the text is being shown in the UI. Other feature of the web part is that the web part is storing the chat history. So with every request, the previous messages are also sent back to the model, giving some context. So for instance, now we can say, how can I test it? And as you see, the model is, again, talking about Microsoft Azure and is giving you the response. Another interesting feature of calling the API in stream mode is that at some point you're going to be able to cancel the response. So imagine that you ask something just by mistake, or the model starts hallucinating and the response back is not, you realize that is not good enough. At that stage, you can cancel the request, and that's going to stop the model to generating more data, and obviously you are saving tokens, and that means save money. So for instance, if we say something like, give me 200 random sentences. So the stream start, we are getting different random sentences, and we have the stop generating button on here. So when we click, the response is stop. So we are not getting more data, and we are saving tokens. So that's mainly how the web part works and the different features. And also, in case you want to use it, the web part is configured. You're going to need to configure the different OpenAI API settings, the endpoint deployment name and an API key from here. And you should be good to use it in your tenant. So let's go back to the slides. Okay, let's take a quick look to how the request response looks like in the stream mode. So this is the request. The URL is composed using the service name and the deployment name. So we are sending the different messages, system message, user assistant, and another parameters. And the interesting part is this one, the stream parameter set to true. And in the response, we're going to get multiple chunks of data. Also note that the headers are different of the usual JSON. So the content type is going to be an event stream, and the transfer encode is chunk. And also in each chunk of data, there's a JSON that you can see in the image with this content, delta content here is the actual text of the response. And also keep in mind that when the response is done, we are gonna get this done string from the service in the stream. Okay. Okay, let's take a look to the source code. Well, this is actually just the architecture of the multiple React components in the web part. Most of the magic is happening in that chat streaming React component. That's the one that is calling the OpenAI in a stream mode. The rest of the components are just dump controllers components rendering HTML. And we are in the web part, as we saw. We have multiple properties to configure the OpenAI API settings. Also, in the web part, in the render method, we are calling the chat streaming React component with the OpenAPI options and the HTTP client coming from the SharePoint Framework context. And also in the on-init, we are starting and configuring the Microsoft Graph Toolkit as we are using the persona component in the UI. Well, this completion request builder class is just modeling the request to the OpenAI API. So we have the messages list, the different parameters, and the stream set to true. And also a couple of methods to add the message, the history message with the user and assistant, and the build method to get the JSON string. So we have this chat as a stream function. In that function, we are composing the endpoint URL from the different settings in the web part. And then the React component is storing the multiple messages from the history. So we are getting that history and send it back to the request. And all the magic is actually happening in this fetch event source. This is actually from an external package, NPM package, Microsoft Fetch Event Source. And the thing is that event streams are actually native support by most of the modern browsers, but are quite limited at this stage. So for instance, you can only do get request, and this is not our case. We need to do a post. So this package comes to the rescue. So we set the method and the headers with the API key. We build the request with the different parameters, stream set to true. And this onMessage function is called every time a chunk of data is returned from the stream. So in this case, we are checking that the data is not this stream done, because in this case, we are just done, we finish. Otherwise, we parse the data and we have this, we're looking for this delta content string. So we are concatenating this string, and also we are sending this signal property. This is actually initializing the constructor of the component. This is, we create an abort controller. This is a native class. And we pass the signal property. This is gonna allow us to cancel the response, the stream. So in the component where we are calling the user message React component, we are passing that abort controller. So later in that component, in the user message component, in the on-click of the stop generated button, we call the abort method in the controller. So that's gonna stop the stream, and also it's gonna fire the onClose event in the fetch event source function, so we can take action in there. The source code is already available in the repo in that URL, so feel free to use it. And that's all from my side. Thank you very much, and back to you, Garry.
Thank you very much, Luis. Great presentation. Love the style that you've done there. Fantastic solution. Great that it's already available to the community as well. So if you liked what you saw, go ahead, go to the community samples gallery. So aka.ms/community/samples. You'll be able to find that solution in there. Perfect. So we've gained some ground. I think we're actually going to finish on time, if a little bit earlier. I guess all I'd like to say is thank you to our three presenters. We have Andrew, Olga, and Luis. So again, thank you very much for coming on and sharing with us all. If you have any feedback about the calls, we're always wanting to do better. Anything that you'd like us to change, see differently, then we'd love to hear from you. So if you go to aka.ms/community/calls/feedback, please submit your feedback through that form, and we will strive to be even better than we are. Okay, if you want to get involved in the community, we have our official Discord server. So again, if you want to go and talk about any of the shows, any of the samples, any of the open source projects as well, then take a look at the Discord server. If you go to aka.ms/community/discord or use the QR code, you'll get the invite link and you'll be able to join into the server. Okay. Just remains to say thank you for everyone for showing your appreciation, activity in the chat, asking your questions as well today. Absolutely fantastic to see that. This recording will be available in 24 hours on the Microsoft 365 Power Platform Community YouTube channel. You'll be able to see that video at aka.ms/community/videos. If you are not a subscriber, then hit that subscribe button today. Make sure that you get the notification for when the video and future videos are actually added as well. You can follow us on Twitter, now X actually, at Microsoft 365 Dev or at M365PMP. The next Viva Connections SPFx call will be February the 22nd. The next community call will be next Tuesday, February the 15th. next Thursday, February 15th. And all the available community calls can be found at aka.ms/community/calls. And Parker would like to say thank you as well. Thank you, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of your day, evening, mornings. Take care.